all my fellow nerds. How are you doing? I have missed you. Oh, and I hope you have missed me too. I have taken way too long getting this podcast out. I thought it would be easier during the summer, but nope. It has been harder, and it has been crazy. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much. I love you guys. You have no idea how much I love you guys. If you are a new listener, I hope you enjoy my podcast, and thanks for putting up with me for the next 20 to 25 minutes. I know y'all already know the drill, but I'm going to say it anyways. You're listening to the Nerd in Texas podcast, the show that brings you useless information that lives rent-free in my brain. I am a nerd in Texas, and I talk about TV shows, movies, and video games with a sprinkle of comedy. I am your hostess, Chanel Fortney. If you could like and subscribe, follow, and all the stuff and things on whatever platform you might be listening on, that would be greatly appreciated. But I have a different task for you. I was gifted a nomination for the People's Choice Awards. I still don't know who did it. I love you, whoever did it, and thank you for believing in me. So only for the month of July can you vote for podcasts with the People's Choice Awards. I am in the category of the Adam Curry, I think that's who it is, I don't know, category, and TV and film category. So if you could vote for me and vote for my good friends Mass Debaters for comedy, that would be super awesome. I will leave all the info in the description, and it's all over my social medias. So if you look up Nerd in Texas, you'll be able to find it. Now, it's been a while because my mom has been sick. I've been holding down the fort, and we've been binge watching all kinds of movies and things I'm hoping to do future podcasts about, like Yellowstone, Luca,
and
Cruella. The girls have watched Luca and Cruella, I don't know how many times.
Like kind of 500 times.
Silenzio Bruno!
And then
Luca is such a cute movie, and so we'll definitely talk about that. I actually really enjoyed that movie. I know everyone is talking about Black Widow, but I'm a Rebel podcast, and I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. I'm just kidding. I totally love Marvel and love Black Widow, and I'm definitely going to be doing a podcast about Black Widow. But I'm going to do a podcast about Gunpowder Milkshake first, because it was really good, and I kind of want to give people a chance to watch Black Widow before I talk about it on my podcast. But I have somebody who wants to say hi.
Hi. If you heard somebody earlier, it was me. I'm Lily. Before I have to go, Kit Kats rule.
Alright, so this podcast is going to be about Loki. But I'm not going to be talking about the series Loki. I will be telling you how I feel about Loki with no spoilers, just in case people haven't seen the finale. But what I'm really going to be talking about is a Norse mythology story of Loki that has been bringing controversy all over social media platforms. I don't know how it happens, but when someone posts something about Loki in any of the nerd groups on Facebook, I've only seen it on Twitter a few times. You get a keyboard warrior on social media, and they always turn Loki into some kind of a political debate. And I'm warning you, I'm not getting political. I'm just setting the story straight for people who like to bring it up. Of course, it always gets started because there's always a post or news article or whatever that there are parents in the world who want Loki taken down or not happy about Loki being on Disney Plus, or because it's supposedly teaching kids about Norse religion, and of course the homophobes who think Loki shapeshifts into other sexes, and they kind of take that info and they run with it. And of course my podcast would not be complete if I didn't have this tiny little fun fact in here, but in Avengers, Loki calls Black Widow a mewling quim, and this is kind of what started the hate against Loki when it comes to parents and stuff, because mewling quim is actually a Victorian era slang for whining vagina, or in other words, a whining see you next Tuesday. But the thing is You wouldn't know that's what that meant if you didn't Google it. And what 6-year-old is Googling or 7-year-old is Googling, what does mewling quim mean? Like, oh man, it's just crazy. Parents are crazy. But anyways, so like I said, they take this information and they just kind of run with it. And it kind of reminds me of when I was in high school and I had to make up hours. So I had to go with this church for a week in Mississippi and we had to repair homes for the elderly. But we all traveled in a van and a lot of the parents wanted to get to know me because I was the new kid. I was the weird kid. I was the kid that like was there to make up hours. And one of them turned around and asked like, how do you feel about gay people? And I was like, well, my uncle was gay, so that was one check mark on how I was a bad kid. And then, like, they turned around and asked, like, how do you feel about Harry Potter books? And I've read all of them, so that was check 2. Check 2 that I'm officially a spawn of Satan and that I probably sinned and was going to hell because they didn't like Harry Potter books because they believed it taught kids about witchcraft and the devil. So here's the deal. And here's the story that everyone brings up when it comes to Loki. But the thing is it's not that simple, okay? Loki shapeshifts into a female horse and eventually gives birth to like an 8-legged horse. And that is their argument. End of story. But how Loki's gay and transgender, but that's not the whole story. That's everything that they try to bring up. And then they're kind of like, see, that's what happened with him. And it's like, but you're not, it's not the whole story. To me, it's not the same thing. Like you're bringing up a bad example for that argument. So just like my last podcast, I got this story from the book Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, and I will leave a link to his book from on Amazon in the description. So like I said, when people bring up this argument and this is what they tell people and end of story, I mean, I can't really be mad at them because none of them know the story. So here we go. Asgard was completely unprotected at one point in time. Thor had gone to the east to fight trolls. This is when the gods were settling into Asgard after they had a treaty with Aesir and Vanir, and Odin decided that they could not rely on Thor all the time and that they needed protection because giants and trolls could come. So Odin held a meeting with the gods and decided on a wall, that they needed a wall tall enough to keep out the frost giants and thick enough that even the tiniest troll could not make its way through. But they could not think of how they would build this wall, for it would take years for it to be done. So the next day, a newcomer arrived in Asgard. He was a big man, dressed as a smith, and behind him a stallion, a huge and gray stallion. He approached Odin and said, "I hear you need a wall built. I can build you a wall, and I can build it so high that the tallest giant could not climb it, and so thick that the strongest troll could not go through it. I can build it so well, placing stone upon stone, that not even an ant could crawl through it, and it will last for 1,000 years." So Loki challenged this guy and said such a wall like that would take a very long time to build. But the newcomer was confident and said, "I can build it in 3 seasons. Tomorrow is the first day in winter. I can have it done by the next winter." Odin said, "Okay, what would you like for payment?" The man said, I don't need that much for payment. I just want 3 things. The sun that shines in the sky by day, the moon that gives you the light at night, and Freya's hand in marriage. And Odin is like, what? How can you sit there and be like, "Oh, no, I just don't want a payment, but I want everything that you need to exist. The sun and the moon and Freya." Well, they don't absolutely need Freya to exist, but you get my point. Odin said that Freya was off the table, that she has her own opinion, and her own opinion, she did not like this at all. So, Odin declared a meeting without the man. The man took his stallion somewhere to get food and shelter. In this meeting, they all decided no. This was going to be a hard pass, but before Odin could tell the new man that came into Asgard, Loki in the background was like, cough to like get their attention. Loki was like, y'all are overlooking one important thing. That this man is declaring that he could build us this impossible wall in 18 months. Now, no giant or god, let alone a mortal, could ever do that. And so they all started listening to Loki, and Freya was not happy. She was like, you are all fools for even entertaining Loki for this idea. But Loki was like, I say we let him do it. That he builds the wall and we give in to his demands, but he has no help. And instead of doing it in 3 seasons, he has to get it done in 1 season. And on the first day of summer, the wall is unfinished. We do not pay him. And there will be enough done with the wall that it wouldn't take long for the gods to finish it. So the man will be going 6 months doing this work unpaid. By the end of the 6 months, they will drive him away, and they won't have much work that they would have to do to finish the wall. So they all agreed, but Freya was not happy. The gods brought the man into the hall, told him that he builds the wall in 1 season, and he has no outside help. If he does not finish, he gets nothing. Now, at first the man was reluctant. He was reluctant to accept it, but eventually did, as long as he could get the help from his stallion. And Odin agreed. They all swore oaths, and they swore on their weapons, and swore on all the things that the gods swear on. So the next morning, the gods stood and watched the man work. He started to dig the trench, and the gods noticed that he digs deep, and he digs fast. And Loki laughed it off by saying something like, well, obviously he's a mighty digger of ditches and trenches, but imagine how many stones he will have to haul here from the mountains. And Freya looked at Loki with disgust and was just like, you're an idiot. The builder mounted his horse and set off to the mountains. Loki said he'll be back in a week. Can't wait to see how many stones he brought. That's my fake, like... I wish I could do, like... they used to have that show, Drunk History. I totally wish I could, like, be on that show, like, be the narrator telling a story. Oh, it would be so awesome. Anyways... Heimdall, who sees all and misses nothing, woke the gods in the middle of the night. They gathered by the trench. They watched the builder walking beside his horse, coming towards them. The horse was steadily dragging a score of blocks so heavy it caused deep ruts in the earth. The gods were amazed by how strong the stallion was, and the builder let the stallion graze as he went to work building the wall stone by stone. Odin and Loki thought it was odd. They thought it was really odd that no normal horse would be able to do that, and no mortal builder would be able to travel and get rocks or stones that fast. So they started to worry, but Loki assured that winter is coming. A blizzard was on its way, and with the snow, it would be even harder for him to work. And Freya just looked at him and was like, I hate you so much right now. But anyways. Hey nerds, you know I love helping you out. So I'm giving you a little tidbit on if you are wanting to start a podcast. I highly suggest you start it with Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. And let me explain. 1, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. The builder continued to work like this, and he would leave for the mountains at night, arriving in the morning, letting his stallion graze while he worked at building, just to do it again that night, and the next morning, let his stallion graze while he worked at building. Odin called a meeting. The wall was being built, and it was being built fast, and they all wished Thor was there. They're like, oh, Thor would know what to do. But even then, they all swore oaths. So even Thor wouldn't have anything that he could do. They all wondered what kind of a man he was, because there's no mortal man would be able to work at that pace, even in deep snow. The days got longer, and the weather and the snow and the rain got worse. Loki kept coming up with excuses. Oh, there's no way he'd be able to haul off all those stones. His horse would get stuck or lose his footing, but the stallion just kept pulling and they kept working. So the mud dried and it eventually became spring, and the builder just kept doing his thing. The mountains at night, just to be back to build in the morning. The gods sat on their thrones in Asgard, freaking out about losing the sun, about losing the moon, and losing Freya. Freya finally stood and said, if this man is a giant, and if this giant does take me, I ask one thing from the gods of Asgard. I want to see whoever caused this to be killed before I go. It's only fair. Loki immediately gets defensive and is like, what? Like, are you sure about that? Because who suggested what? And she was like, you did, you idiot. The gods began to turn on Loki, and Loki's like, WTF, what do you want from me? What do you expect me to do? And Odin is like, I don't expect you to do anything, but we have to get this dude to fail before summer, but we can't go against our oaths, so we're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I get it, because of all the stones. Never mind. Okay. So Loki said, leave it to me, and walked out of the hall. No one stopped him. Everyone was just like, okay, bye. So the builder placed his last stone for the day, and he was like, man, tomorrow's going to be the first day of summer. I only need 20 more stones. I'll be finished with this wall, and I will walk away with all my wages. And his stallion was grazing as he always does. The builder was getting ready, and he whistled for his horse. The builder was thinking about all of his winnings, including Freya, the most beautiful woman. He whistled for the horse again and thought, odd, I've never had to whistle for my horse twice. The builder looked over the meadow of flowers and spotted his stallion. The stallion was prancing back and forth. The builder called to him. The stallion looked at him and started to prance towards the builder. So the builder was listening to his stallion's hooves and his hoofbeats on the ground, and it grew louder. And then he realized it kind of doubled. And the builder realizes, wait a minute, that's not just one horse, but there's two horses headed this way. The other horse was a chestnut mare. The builder knew she was a mare immediately. And he was like, dang, that horse is a female horse. This mare kept messing with the stallion. She would like rub up against him and then run off a little bit, and the stallion would catch up to her, but then she would do it again, and the stallion was running off further and further away from the builder to the point that they both just vanished into the shadow of the woods. The builder, realizing his horse was not coming back, decided to go up to the mountains. He would get the stones and bring them back himself. But all he could manage to bring back was 10. And when he came back, Freya was at the gateway waiting. She let him know that Thor would be back from the east, and all the gods eventually came back and kind of chilled with Freya, and they all started to heckle him, saying things like, it's a shame you don't have your horse. You would have had the stones, and you would have had the wall done, and you would have been able to bring great things back home. That's when the builder got mad. He got mad. Like mad. And he was like, y'all cheated. And Odin told him, we did not cheat, no more than you did. You think we would have let you build a wall if we knew you were a giant? The builder turned and broke one of those stones with his bare hands. And then he started to grow and grow. And he grew up to like 50 feet tall. And he was angry. Angry. And he started yelling at the gods, calling them cheaters and oath breakers. And he went running at the gods with a stone in each hand. And the gods stepped aside, and bam, Thor was standing there ready to fight this giant. So Thor threw his hammer, and he threw the hammer so hard that he killed the giant. So the gods finished the walls themselves. Some of the gods felt they should have let the giant finish the wall even more before Thor killed him. And if that is the case, then like, dang, these are some lazy gods. Like, they don't want to do anything for themselves. They don't even want to finish a wall. But Thor was like, thank you for having some fun ready for me, because we all know how Thor is. He loves to fight. But Loki was not around to be praised for his part in all of this and the luring away of the stallion. Some Asgardians spoke of an amazing, beautiful mare that could be seen in the meadow, but Loki stayed away for most of the year. When he did return, he was accompanied by a gray foal. Now, if you don't know what a foal is, it's a baby horse. It was a beautiful foal, but it had 8 legs instead of 4. The foal followed Loki and nuzzled him wherever they went. The foal grew into a horse named Sleipnir, a huge gray stallion, the fastest and the strongest horse. Loki presents Sleipnir to Odin as a gift. Everyone admired Odin's horse, but only the brave would mention the parentage of Loki's presence, and he would make your life miserable if you were to bring up the story. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the gods got their wall and the story of Loki. So I was going to talk about how I felt about the series of Loki, but I feel like this has taken too much time, so I'll do it in another podcast. I hope you enjoyed this story. I'm sorry if it was a long one. I'm sorry if it was like not even asked for, but for some reason y'all liked my Loki story last time, and I don't know, I just thought I would talk about it. I thought I would bring it up. Mainly because I get in arguments with people on Facebook, and this is the one thing that they would bring up, but nobody ever really knows the story. So I feel like if I talk about it and people know the story, then it would be, I don't know, a better argument? I don't know. But anyways, I hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Nerd in Texas podcast. Make sure you visit my Ko-fi page. It's kofi.com/nerdintexas. You can donate with $1 to $3. And any donation, or can I say tip? I call it my virtual tip jar. Any tip that you receive, you automatically get an invite to my Discord server. My Discord server is pretty quiet. So if you want to get in there and talk about stuff, be my guest. If you find me on all the platforms such as iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, subscribe so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, vote for my podcast, leave a review, tell people about my podcast, and if you could, I know I'm asking like for 50 million things, follow me on Facebook. Again, I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you enjoyed my story. And until then, peace out, nerds.